there, viewers. Welcome back to the South Main Auto Channel. That's a 2000. It's a Jeep. It's a Cherokee, and it's got the big 4.0 in it. The lady says the battery dies overnight or within like 2 days. She has to jump it, and then it runs fine, and everything's happy. It's afternoon. This morning I went out and put the battery charger on it, set it on nuclear because the battery was, 0.0 volts. So we got her up to snuff. Started it, brought it in. Oddly enough, to get it started, I had to put it in neutral. It's an automatic. I just called the customer and asked her if she has had that problem. She says it's only happened to her once. So it's like, well, we'll look at the battery draw and then we'll, perhaps see what's going on with that, or maybe they're, connected. We'll come inside of it here. It is kind of chilly out, so maybe something was funky down here. Put her in neutral. You can see it starts and runs. We got the classic tape over the engine light. Let me throw her in park now, see if it works. We got her in park. Oh, look at that. Works in park now. Maybe she wasn't lying to me. Everything is a tad frozen. First thing first, we are going to check to make sure we have a good battery. We're just going to use our little battery tester here. It said it is brand new Champion. And it does say October 2020. And I don't know what month this is, December, so we have some surface charge on it right now. Flooded battery. It doesn't have the cold cranking amps listed. We're going to guess. Oops. We're going to guess probably 650 on a Group 34. Let her do some checking. Survey says, ooh, good, 693 cold cranking amps she's left with. We'll give her a little printout here. You can take that to the bank. They won't give you anything for it, but fancy, right? There she is, she's full beam. So now that we know we have a good battery, we've kind of seen what was going on there on the inside, even though it was seemed to kind of resolve itself. Just kind of some clues we're gathering along the way. Now we're going to check it for a draw and see how much current's being drawn out of the battery. These older cars, the system should shut down relatively quickly, so we shouldn't have to worry about letting it time out for an extended period of time. So we're just going to run it right through our meter here. Keep that kind of hooked up until you see we have some aftermarket type wiring stuff going on there. So we'll get that hooked on. All right, now we'll disconnect it. We'll come in our meter. We'll go to graphing meter. We'll do amps internal. It'll take it a minute to kind of boot up here. Well, it's more than 500 milliamps. Looks like it is drawing about 780 milliamps currently. How'd you like that pun? Currently. Get it? So anyhow, being that it's sitting here at 780, so almost a full amp, 3/4 of an amp. That's going to smoke the battery definitely overnight or in a couple nights. I'm going to let this sit for a little while, make sure nothing else needs to time out. It shouldn't. And then we're going to have to go and see if we can't find the source of where this current is going. While we're waiting, I think it's worth mentioning, I made this little observation here. Always worth kind of putting in your back pocket. It does have some aftermarket accessory, possibly a remote start. So if we don't see any draw on any of the normal fuse circuits, maybe it's something that's been added on. So I've given it some time. You can see here, hopefully you guys can see that we're still about the same, 790 milliamps. It flickers between 790, 780. So now we need to figure out what circuit it's on. It may be on one of these bigger maxi fuses that feeds another circuit inside, or through a relay or one of the other fuse circuits. Easiest way to do that, older vehicle like this, you might be okay with just going through, pulling out one fuse at a time, watching it draw, see if it goes away. That can burn you on a newer car, because a lot of times if you pull a fuse, your draw doesn't go away, you plug the fuse back in. Well, if that was power for some module, now all of a sudden the module wakes up and you're waiting half hour, 40 minutes, an hour for that to shut back off again. So what we'll do, because fuses are part of the circuit, they also, when there's current flowing through them, there's voltage drop across them. Being that we can access both sides of the circuit, the power coming in, the power going out, we can measure voltage drop. Now it's going to be measured in very low volts, in millivolts. So we'll go through and we'll check the voltage drop across each fuse. And technically, if there's no current flow, it should be 0. And if we have one that's reading a few millivolts, there's actually a nice chart that PowerPro puts out that converts the type of fuse, the size of fuse, your millivolts, into amps. So it's pretty handy. So we're just going to use a regular DVOM. I'm going to set it up. Just take your 2 leads, and we're going to come across both the ends of the fuse here. And it takes a minute for the meter to zero out, but it goes right to 0. And then I'm going to work down every single fuse and see if any of them are different than, 0. Kind of like Murphy's Law here, folks. It's always the last fuse you check. So I don't know, can you guys see that? The glare is strong. Can you see? I'm trying to see if you can see. I don't know if you can. I'll show you an example here. It was literally the second to the last fuse I checked. So here's a good one, 0.0 millivolts. Perhaps we can turn the light on here for just half a second. I don't know if that helps you or not. Try to show you that again. So I'm on a good one right now, so 0.0. And then I did find this fuse right here. It's a 20 amp fuse. I believe it was this one. And it is showing 2.1 millivolts. So we have 2.1 millivolts of voltage drop across that fuse. All the rest of them were at 0. So I'll look on here, and it's clearly labeled. No, it's not. It just says 20A. So we don't know what that feeds. I don't know if 2.1 millivolts is equivalent to our almost 800 milliamps. We could take the time to look it up on PowerPro's chart, or we could just pull it. Bada bing, bada boom. We fixed it. 0.009 amps. So that's good. Just tell the lady to keep this fuse out.
Yeah, you forgot one very important line.
What's that?
There's your problem.
That is your problem, lady, right there. It's this defective fuse, because when we remove it, it fixes it. Let's stick it back in and see what happens. See if we hear anything. Whoa. Off, good. Back in, OLF, it says, OLF, O-L-F. Now we're down to 900 milliamps and coming down. So that's interesting. Let's look at that on a graph, just because I'm kind of curious how that's coming down like that. I'm going to put it up on a 2 amp scale. We'll get her about 20 seconds. All right, I just want to yank that out because it seemed to do something funny when I put it back in. So I pulled it out, the amperage draw is gone. Okay, yeah, no, it just goes up to about 850. I assume it's going to calm down and settle down. So now that we know, we have direction. So that was easy. Let me get that fuse straightened back up here. Got it in there all cattywampus. And I know I was joking about the fuse being bad. The fuse is not the defective part, folks. The fuse is simply in the middle of the circuit that is defective. Now it's a 20 amp fuse. I don't know how we're going to find out who's who here, because they're not even labeled fuse numbers. The only one that's labeled is the ignition off draw fuse, IOD fuse. I'm going to do some poking. I'm going to find out what this fuse runs. We're going to find a power distribution diagram. Being it's 20 amp, it either runs one big heavy duty circuit, or my thought is it probably runs multiple circuits, but now we've narrowed it down, and we're going to pick a pinpoint test to do, find out where it goes, multiple ways, maybe it goes to other fuses, and then kind of take it from there and see if we can't start narrowing this down and get our pinpoint from a big ballpoint to a little pen. So I found this little diagram here. Get a pointing apparatus. So we were, find out, make sure it sits there. So, should be this one here. So according to this, it's F17 is the fuse. Not sure what the numbers below it represent, 21 and 22. But on the second page, 17. So we look down the chart here, 17, 20 amp, it has a little square by it, which evidently means 4 liter, which this is. Fused circuit F99 18 red, so it must be 18 gauge wire red. Feed circuit A06 red, 6RD. I'm gonna have to see if I can find this circuit, this fuse circuit number, this F99. So let me do some poking on some diagrams, see what we can figure out there. So I think I found us the right diagram, folks. I want to revisit something here for a minute. I think we've got a big clue. Pulled that fuse out. I've got it up on the graphing meter. I want to give this a minute because I'm pretty sure that I saw something that could be a big old clue, perhaps. And I know we revisited it or took a peek at it here a minute ago when we looked at it, and I told you that, let me get that on wrong. Squirrel! I got distracted. When I put that fuse in, the draw was high, and I thought I seen it peter off. Now that might not sound like much, but that should be, it might be a clue for us as to what is going on here. So I'm going to stick that back in there. I've got 2 amps, 30 seconds. I'm going to stick it back in. Yes, indeed. Oh, yes, indeed. Can you guys see that? So the initial inrush current was 1.35 amps, and you can see that it is petering down, and it's probably going to go back to that 780 milliamps or the 800 where it was sitting. But that's something worthy to note, that big inrush of current and then whoops, will open right down. I'll give you a minute to think about it. I thought I saw that when we first did it, but I had it on the wrong scale, and I thought it was unusual that it would come down like that. I'll let you guys think about that for a minute, and I think it might all start coming together here if my hunch is correct. So fuse 17, I got a wiring diagram here of the power distribution center. It's probably hard to see on here. We have fuse 17. Are you guys still in focus? Yep, 17. Comes down and it feeds oxygen sensor downstream relay, oxygen sensor upstream relay. Goes to both of them. Aha, maybe that pattern's starting to get your wheels turning a little bit more as to why that might be doing that. So why does the oxygen sensor need a relay? You know, certainly not to, you know, feed it so it can see it from the ECM. The relay is going to feed the heater side of it. So think about that for a minute. Okay, when that heater's heating up, what's it going to do? When it's cold, it's going to rush in a lot of current. As it heats up, the resistance goes up, current goes down. Did I say that correctly? Yes, resistance goes up, current goes down. So we look at it here, because I wanted to see, does that feed the control side, the load side, or both? What's the story? It doesn't. So this 20 amp fuse comes in and feeds the load side of this relay, and it feeds the load side of this relay. All right. The control comes from the ECM, and the power for the control comes from a different fuse. So I think we can deduct just by looking at what we have here. We have 2 relays. We have a 800 milliamp draw, or 0.8 of an amp. So that tells me that one of the 2 relays is stuck on, because if they were both stuck on, we would definitely be, amp and 3/4, 2 amps. So let's find these relays and pull one. See if I can feel one. That's when you know you're good, when you're like, yeah, there's your problem. Let's see if they're down here. Oxygen sensor downstream relay, oxygen sensor upstream. So they're both here. So it is one of these 2. And we're gonna take and pull. Just take a guess here. We're gonna pull one out. Come on, you mother. Let me get some pair of pliers. Pull that one out. Boom! Doesn't look bad. Plug it back in. Amperage draw goes back up. Unplug it. Amperage draw goes down. Got it on the first try. So, and just to prove, it's not the other one, take this one right out of the equation. Plus we need another one. So our current draw is still up, but what we need to know is that relay just bad and it's latched? Well, let's find out. So we're going to stick that, our known good. So there, so now our known goods in there, our draw is still gone. This relay is no good, and I'll prove it to you. Now that you don't believe me because you just saw it, so we got our voltmeter set on resistance. Can you guys see it where you're at? Hopefully. And theoretically, on the load side of the relay, so that's going to be our two big terminals, it should be open. It should be open. I said that like I was going to say something next. And figure out how to do this. But I bet we're going to have continuity across it. Now I look like an idiot. Let's see. Oh, there we go. It's auto ranging at 0.1 ohms. The relay is permanently latched. Josh, right now.
Oh, I got that done.
Oh, okay. Did you drive it?
I did, yeah. Got a pretty wicked shimmy to it.
Yeah, the
Probably did.
brakes.
Well,
And
brakes,
balance.
getting up to about 72.
Yeah, I noticed that when me and Jay were driving it, but I wanted to get them rotors are so stinking bad on that
Yeah, I
thing.
think that's what's kind of hanging up. It kind of holds the left a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, we, I think it's been sitting almost a year. Some brakes are like solid rust. So we're gonna see if we can't get inside this relay and see if the points are burnt right together in it. It might be a solid state relay, I don't know. I'm not real ginger when it comes to opening these things. That's why I work on cars and not at the relay rebuilding factory. I don't know if that is even a real place. Well, what in the thunder here, folks? It'll be fixed by the time I get in there because we've inadvertently wiggled it or something. Oh, come on! There. Well, that's interesting. It's not physically latched. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. It doesn't appear. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's the magnetic pulley puller. Just a minute here. I got to stick my face back. Let's see. Yes, sir. It feels stuck. It is stuck like a banshee down there. Oh, Chuck. The points. Give me a matchbook and a nail file, Jay.
Alright. We got old Chevy here and gap the points in.
There we go. Now she's working. I'm going to be proud because technically we could stick this thing back in. I bet it's going to work. Okay, so it's back in. The draw is now fixed. Now if I squeeze the relay, it should turn on. Look at that. Now it's on. Now it's off. No parts required, baby. Just kidding. I can't let the thing go out of here like that. But just to show you, that was it. That was that simple. Never had to get inside the car. Relay's junk. Needs a new one. And we know which one. Alright, well I got lucky. I had a relay here for it. On my box of relays, like every time we change out a fuse box or a tip them or something, we always strip all the old fuses and relays out. So I have bags full of them. I just want to pop this down just so you guys have a known good. A known good current draw on your 2000 Cherokee is 9 milliamps. So virtually nothing. That's just enough to probably keep the clock alive. So now we can hook our battery back up. Got some pretty fancy wiring going on there. We're going to leave all that alone. It's not what we were hired to fix. Hopefully you guys learned a little something here. How to track down an isolated draw. Now this was not premeditated, just so you know. That's real life right there, folks. We have another one coming in on a Honda. I'm afraid that one's probably not going to be as easy. I'm guessing. Got everything right? And we even got it done before the ice melted. So I think it's worthwhile, folks, to maybe do a little review. We haven't visited the whiteboard in a long time. It's not my MO. But I do get a lot of battery draws in from other shops like this one. And I think they either don't have a method or they lose sight. So I'll just show you my approach in a nutshell. using like the target reference to kind of point into where we want to go. So we're going to be looking at big picture here. So this is the outer ring of the target. So, you know, it's verified draw, we'll say. So at that point, we verified the draw. I like to use, you know, a meter, a DVOM. You don't have to use that Snap-on one I had. I use that because the fuses are super cheap. You can use any DVOM. Make sure you have it set up correctly. All right, I like to go on a negative battery. Typically, I would have all the doors open, all the latches tripped. That way there, if it's a car that has to sit for an extended period of time, I don't have to worry about opening a door to get into an accessory, into a fuse box. So we can do more on that maybe when we do the Honda. So we verify the draw, and then you kind of, okay, so we have, you know, 780, you know, milliamps. We verified it. Now what? That's all we know. Yes, we have a draw. Give it the proper amount of time. Now we want to kind of, you know, hone in a little bit. We want to get into this ring, start narrowing it down. At that point, we did the voltage drop test across the fuses. Now we did them on the outside fuse box. If that led us on a maxi fuse to the inside fuse box, we would have went there. So this circuit here is verify. I could be spelling wrong. I'm a mechanic, not a spelling magician. Verify circuit, which we did. And that was, in this case, F17. That was the fuse. So now we know which fuse it's on. Now we want to get a little bit closer to that. And then we come down here where we're almost in a bullseye. This diagnosis was pretty easy, so we only have 3 bullseyes. We want to verify component. What component is it? Is it the relay being latched on? In this case, it could have been the control side of the relay being latched, in which case I would have thought, I take that sentence back. If it was the control side, we would have had draw on another fuse, but it would have been an internal fuse. So we very likely, we verified the component, which was the relay being stuck on. Now if we pulled that relay out and we heard it click, at that point we have a problem with another circuit. We have a problem with the control side telling that relay to turn on. PCM controlled, it's pretty unlikely, but we could have had. So there's that. You want to start out big and you want to get right down to a pinpoint test on a specific circuit. So maybe that helps no one. All right, folks, well, that's that. Like I say, this one was pretty easy. A lot of times parasitic draws don't come to you that easy because you have 5 fuse boxes to check and it's always the last fuse. So wherever you want to start at the end of that circuit, end of that list, rather. It just seems the way it always works for me. Like I say, we have a Honda coming in, later model. Same customer complaint, battery dies overnight. I approach it in the same exact way. You know, we're gonna see what the draw is. Is it there? And then can we start narrowing it down? Voltage drop across the fuses, find the circuit, and then find the component. It's not always that easy, but in a perfect world, it is, and that's how it works. Sometimes other tools that are handy, particularly on days like today where it's, you know, super cold outside, we could have went out after getting the battery up to a nuclear level and gone out with the infrared camera and looked around. We would have seen that that relay was warm. Instantly could have drawn, honed in right there, or at least, you know, put that in our little diagnostic toolbox and see, you know, is this it? Is this the only draw? Still put our meter on it, yank it out, and just kind of narrow that problem down a lot quicker. I've found, you know, instrument clusters and radios and other components, compass module on something I was just working on, that was doing that, and I did it just like that, just infrared, went out there, vehicle stone cold, shine around, look for the bright red spot, and then kind of really quickly narrow down my focus, you know, in that area. So that's it. Why don't you guys go down in that area and below in the comment section, do what you do down there. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.